Performance, intelligent automation in finance. And for this, I would like to invite on stage Mr. Nishit Mehta, who is the CFO at 𝗙𝗏𝗏 𝗏𝗏 Flipkart Limited, supporting the business unit all across the globe, North America, Europe, AP-MEA region, India, technology, product and support functions. He is heading the FP&A team, project management and tech project that leads to agility and savings. He is also responsible for the overall cost controls and achieving profitability on sustainable basis and managing the relationship with vendors and customers. With this, let's welcome him with a big round of applause.
Audible? Hi, just a quick introduction. This is Nishit Mehta. I'm part of Flipkart Health Plus. It's a very recent venture of Flipkart where we are now in the health tech space. We started with delivering authentic medicines to customers, and we probably will bring more. We're just about 1.5 years old. So that with that, we'll start. Just to share my experiences with automation, I think Amit laid out a great lay of the land in terms of how data should look like and how we should structure data. So now I'll go into the next step in terms of how we look at automation as well. So what I want to cover over here is, why we need to automate, what we need to automate, how we need to automate, and what is required for all of this to hold together, which is the culture of automation. So why? Why do we need automation? I think we all agree it is very important. It is very critical. It helps us in saving a lot of cost. It helps us in saving a lot of time, resources, etc. So I think with a lot of these startup bubble which has been created, we have a lot of tech disruptions happening. So we need to evolve, else we will not be relevant anymore. We need to look at various cost benefit analysis in terms of various processes, and in e-commerce, right? We have a lot of things which work out at a large scale. So how do we look at every process and define how automation should work? And it can be as simple as how delivery for a certain route needs to happen so that it's the most cost-efficient route. Then and all of this then helps us unlock in terms of bottom line. So how do you think about automation? What do we think about when we think automation? Is the task recurring? Is it monotonous in nature? Is it time consuming? Is it based on a certain rule or logic? And if all of this holds true, then I think it is very important that we kind of look at automation in that process. So that's how I would think about automation whenever I kind of look at a certain task or a certain process. Now, how do I go about automation, right? I think we have a lot of partners here as well. We think about Excel, rightly said by Amit as well, right? So what do we do when we look at automation? So I'll just share a few examples of how we do it at Flipkart. First of all, I think if it is easy to use, you can do it on an Excel, macro, basic linking. I think that's some of the basic things can be just done like that. Just to share an example, we've currently linked our entire accounting software to an Excel-based macro such that as soon as the trial balance is released, our MIS is prepared. It probably just takes about 10-15 minutes of checking, and then we're ready to release our MIS. That's the first part. So try looking at basic, easy methods of automation. Now, obviously, with data going larger and larger, sometimes there are requirements for tools. So how do you look at tools? Do we look at internal tools or external tools? Now, when you assess these, the way to look at it is, let's say in internal tools, for example, in a lot of these tech-based companies, right, we have, data systems whereby a lot of your matrices, customer matrices, a lot of your cuts, etc., are already available on a real-time basis. So how do these systems talk to your accounting systems and various other systems so that you can, build some things internally itself, right? Because a lot of times, external tools might not be able to talk to internal tools that well. So how do you look at internal tools, and whenever a tech capability is built, how do you think about, in a long-term basis, that some of these tools can be created while that particular capability is created, so that, it helps us in the long run. Obviously, there are a lot of external tools. We use a lot of capabilities with respect to, automating our entire procure-to-pay process. And we have external, tools which are being used. Obviously, like Amit said, most tech companies, even in, Flipkart or in any other tech-based companies which I have experienced, internal tools take the last precedence. So we obviously have to rely on a lot of, ability from either our tech teams, or we actually then end up, going into the external route. The buzzword is Gen AI. So what do we do from a Gen AI perspective? So today, what we are doing from Gen AI is a lot customer-based aspects. So for example, at Flipkart Health Plus, we're yet to launch it to customers, but we have internally launched it as a test phase, whereby you can just, chat with a certain, artificial intelligence tool, whereby you can ask for, I have a headache, what needs to be done. So if you want to manage a certain level of disease, which are very basic in nature, just like a viral or a headache, or just you need to know what are the kind of virals which are there prevalent in the ecosystem today, you will get those basic data today from, the tool. The next level of that tool is then, you can just ask questions to that from a voice scenario that, where is my order? What is the status of my order? When do you think I'll receive it? So all of that, you will get it, from a very automated basis. So that's something which we are building. Coming to bots, right? The vendor management tools which we use are all, bot-based, and a lot of customer interactions as well, which is basically, you want to buy a phone, for example. You just go and type over there, I need a phone which is priced between so and so range, has these basic features, which are the phones I should buy. And then the bots kind of recommend the phone basis, whatever, selections we have. So that's the another aspect, but they are more customer-based. From a vendor process management perspective, things like how do you do your vendor onboarding to payment to reminder, everything on an automated basis. So that's something which we have implemented earlier, but obviously, we needed to kind of evolve. So now we are evolving into a newer tool, but we are working on also bots for both customer-facing aspects as well as internal finance aspects. Now, the most important part which stitches all of this together, right, is the culture. And how do you ensure that you basically put all of this together from a culture standpoint, right from looking at this, and this is my perspective. Obviously, it will depend on each of your organizations and how each organization is structured. Basically, we prefer a more bottom, self-driven initiation culture to a top-down culture where someone is forced to do an automation versus it comes from the teams that automation is required. So how do you drive that culture from the organization that every team comes up and says that, I think, basis the rules I said earlier, we think that this process can be automated and it will help us become more scalable. So that's the first thing. Now, an automation is done. But what happens many a times is, and I'm sure you guys would have experienced it, that you're looking at an MIS on a regular basis, but let's say after a few months, that MIS becomes redundant. Why? Because it's coming on an automated basis. Everything is working. Like last 4-5 months, things have been good. You just look at the top headlines and move on. So how do you keep evolving into it, basis changes in the business, basis the changes which the management needs to look at, etc. So continuous training and coaching the teams, because people also keep changing, right? So you do not want the systems which you've created to become redundant with more and more people changing. So how do you do a continuous training and coaching of people so that most of these automations stay relevant, and then you kind of keep evolving as the org evolves? And then once all of this is done, how do you make it as a process, right? So how do you think of this particular aspect becoming a way of life in the organization? And the most important thing, when people end up doing automation and they take a lot of effort, how do we ensure that we give visibility to such people, and then there is also rewards commensurate to it? Else, it becomes very difficult, right? So how do you ensure that this entire culture is established into the organization? That will help us, get into the automation culture. I just wanted to discuss a few case studies which we've done in Flipkart so that, we can discuss it out loud in terms of if there are any other Q&As for you guys. The first thing which we have started doing is how do we do a automated buying? So for example, if we have a certain inventory and that inventory is about to get depleted because of the sales happening, if it reaches a certain level of inventory, how do a bot automatically deduct it and basis predefined rules of how your days on hand of inventory should be, it raises a PO onto the vendor and you actually look at delivery rather than you having people, looking at this on a daily basis. And obviously we store massive amount of inventory, few million square feet of warehouse space. So it's not possible that you get it right all the time. So you don't want to miss out on sales. You do not want to miss out on the opportunity. So you have a basic level of inventory buying already defined into the system. That's the first example I wanted to give. Second example is automated pricing. For example, a lot of sellers, right, can maximize their sales as well as profitability if on a predefined basis, we are able to set in certain rules which are agreed upon with the sellers on a prior basis. Let's say those rules can be anything like elasticity, competitive pricing, things like how a certain time will have a certain elasticity, so it is time-based as well. And then the system automatically prices such products so that you can get the maximum out of both the sales as well as the margins. And sellers are very happy to pass on a cut of this to the platform to enable this more and more. So this is the second level of automation we've done internally. One of my past experiences, right, I was part of an ad tech company. There we actually went about doing a day zero book closure, and I'm sure a lot of finance professionals here, would be very interested. We used to get our numbers, and like I said, most tech companies get revenue in every 5 minutes, every 10 minutes on a live basis. So we just went about thinking, how can we look at revenue booking on a live basis, and it can be daily, and then also looking at cost booking accordingly, such that we can get a day zero closure. So we used to close our books on the 2nd of the month. And that was something which we achieved thanks to thinking about how day zero book closure can be done. And this was all through, this was obviously that time, this was all 10 years back, so this is through Excel-based automation. But what I hear now is they've evolved into more system-based, ERP-based book closures. I think this is a term which we cannot get away with. AI or die. A lot of conversations happening. Some agree, some don't. But I'm sure AI will evolve into helping us make our lives far better, far more rich in terms of discussing how we can take the business forward, how we can look at growth, etc., versus spending a lot of time in mundane Excel exercises.